Right, all you up-all-nighters, you insomniatic TV watchers, gamers, grappers, and drivers, and especially you streetlight crusaders from all around the world. Welcome to the 5:35 in the morning edition of the Tuesday Night Special. I am your insomniatic host from the East Coast, DJ Smokey, bringing you the best for the North, South, East, and West that the world of music, games, and wrestling has to offer, and seeing the fact that we are here to help you with your post-tax day woes or successes, depending on what side of the spectrum you're on. I think it's time for us to waste no time and explain to you guys what's going to happen on this very special tax night edition of the Tuesday Night Special. Because we kick things off with what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Sacramento, California, home of the Kings. I hope, because you're not even moving sports teams a lot around here. Next up on the plate, we go into a very special late-night comedy news edition of the As Seen on TV. And the only hit you're getting for this week, folks, is that one of the people was featured in Living Color. Only hit you're getting. Also, besides that, we go ahead and check out some video game hits, clips, as well as scratching that indie itch you got at home from the world of Cade for another edition of the Cade Triple S Deluxe. Then we find out what sort of crazy weather we can experience for this week, along with the crazy giant oversized vulture outfit he's got to bring with it for another edition of a weather update. And yeah, he is going to wear that vulture outfit in this studio. I don't know how it's gonna fit, but he'll find a way. And it's gonna give me a headache. I know it is. Then finally, last but not least, and hopefully before the morning sun rises or my equipment gets knocked down due to a wingspan, we wrap up the show yet another edition of the Indy Report, which is me giving you guys two news stories followed up by local content information from local artists who forming in a local area live near you. And I guess with that said, I might as well tell Carl and the maestro to kick up the beats, crank out the tunes, and most importantly, make sure you lower the desk a little bit so my stuff doesn't get knocked down due to a wingspan from a Birdman. Cause it's time for us to bring some fun and delight on your street-lit, moonlit Tuesday night. Only here, right here, on the Tuesday Night Special. So let's get this streetlight show started, folks. Alright, all you streetlight crusaders, and I guess a couple of you wrestling fans who are still up for the night, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And now it's time for us to find out what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Sacramento, California. And yes, during the commercial break, we had to look it up, and yes, the Sacramento Kings is still a part of Sacramento. Thought that would have been one of the many teams they shipped off to Vegas. But it wasn't. But besides me being worried that every major sports team might eventually make its way to Sin City, Monday Night Raw would kick off with none other than Gunther. And Gunther pissed off since last week after what Jey Uso would say to him about him not being afraid of him and all the other stuff that he would say. But would respond back with that he's full of crap. And Michael Cole would try to bring up what happened last year at WrestleMania for him to say, screw him, screw you, screw Jey Uso, and everybody else who stands along with him. And would say that he's the greatest gift that this company has ever gotten, and would call him one of the greatest champions of all time, and refuses to let Jey Uso end that. Because when the bell rings, he's not fit to lace his boots, and he'll put him down for a fourth time. And would say that he did lose control last week, especially when he bathed in his brother's blood. And if he wasn't in control, you would have drowned in your own brother's blood along with your brother himself. And would say that at WrestleMania, he's gonna walk in as champion and walk out as champion. And how would Jey Uso respond to all of that? Well, besides the fans eating it up there in Sacramento, he would respond later on that night by saying, "Oh, I can see what's going on, Us. You're afraid. And I'm locked in. Before anybody thinks I'm crashing out, I'm locked in. And I'm locked in for the fans, I'm locked in for my family, and most importantly, I'm locked in for myself. So I'm gonna get you at WrestleMania and become world champion. Yeet." His exact words, according to Carla the Maestro laughing over in the corner. But after a message was sent to challenger and champion alike, the first match to kick things off for Monday Night Raw for this week would see none other than Liv Morgan going one-on-one against Bayley. Now, if you're wondering why in the world this match is taking place, folks, well, it looks like on SmackDown, or should I say it in my announcer voice, meanwhile on SmackDown, we would see in a battle royal none other than Bayley and Lia Valkyria going on to become #1 contenders for the said tag team championships of the women's variety. And do you think they would be able to work well as a team? Well, during this match to prove that they could, despite some chicanery that would take place during this match as Raquel Rodriguez would slap Bayley in the face, leading into a drop kick to the spine for a near fall. Even seeing Raquel putting the foot on the ropes after a little bit of a modified stunner thanks to Bayley for a near fall. We would see Lia Valkyria springing to action, not only taking it to Raquel on the outside of the ring, but at the same time stopping Oblivion, only for a jackknife cover for Bayley to learn from Lia Valkyria on the way to win via pin, because she would win this match via pinfall. And I find it funny, I got a feeling that is the reason how she learned how to win with different pin combinations, because Lyra's been doing it for the past several weeks. Just saying. And the next match to take place on Monday Night Raw would see none other than Rey Mysterio going one-on-one against Julius Creed. And if you think that American Made was gonna get involved during this match, why yes, they would. And that would lead to the LWO, who came out with Rey Mysterio to get involved during this match as well, for the both of them to be kicked out and sent to the back. And after they were sent to the back, this match would be pretty good, because not only you would see a tilt-the-world backbreaker for a near fall by Julius Creed, even seeing the strength of Julius Creed during this match to counter that baseball slip and slide splash into a deadlift suplex up the stairs and onto the apron. That unfortunately would lead him getting hit into the turnbuckle pose, but afterwards would lead to a satellite DDT countered by Rey Mysterio for a near fall. Only for El Grande Americano to come out, for Rey to try to take off his mask, for Julius to try to get an advantage, but still go up for a near fall. But ultimately, this match will come to an emphatic end with an area code of the local area of San Diego, or Sacramento. I'm not sure their area codes are the same, but either way you look at it, a 619 being hit, as well as a drop of the dime for Rey Mysterio to win this match via pinfall. But after the match was over, Americano would make his way to the ring and decide to attack not only Rey Mysterio, but every member of the LWO with head headbutts aplenty with that loaded mask, only to hit Rey Mysterio in the center of the ring with a diving headbutt to show his dominance prior to his WrestleMania match while saying, "Gracias!" And if you're wondering if this El Kabong Baba Louie sort of stunt would still continue throughout the night, and Carl and the Maestro said it was Quick Draw McGraw and El Kabong, but yeah, I get the point, but we were trying to do something a little different. Either way you look at it, folks, let's just say later on that night, Chad Gable would come out and say, "Rey Mysterio, this upcoming WrestleMania is going to be your 13th WrestleMania, and it's definitely going to be bad luck for you once El Grande Americano gets his hands on you. Thank you." Nobody's buying it, man. Nobody's buying it. But outside of that bit of chicanery, folks, next thing we would see on the screen would be the War Raiders talking about what happened last week about the New Day taking the coward's way out of that championship match, even though it was Ivar who hit Xavier Woods in the gut with the chair. So how would they respond to that? They would respond by saying that, yeah, you made it personal because now you tried to not only take our championships, but our career because you tried to go for our neck. Now it's going to be war at WrestleMania. For the New Day to respond back by saying they've been in a war this entire time, but it ends at WrestleMania with us finally getting those championships and the people finally getting down on their knees and thanking God for the New Day. And I got a feeling that might not happen, and I hope the match that they have at WrestleMania is under Viking rules, but I highly doubt it. I mean, they tried to take the man's career. I got a feeling they're not there to play when they get on that grand stage. And speaking of people who will be featured a part of that grand stage, the next match to take place on this said card of WrestleMania's Raw, or Raw before WrestleMania, according to Carl and the Maestro, would see none other than the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, going one-on-one against the Herald of Doomsday himself, Karrion Kross. And for those wondering at home and wanted to keep a tab on how long it's been since Kross been inside the ring, well, it's been well over 9 long months since the last time we've seen Kross duke it out in the ring. And to celebrate that occasion, he would go back to his old music to try to go back to the old dominance that he used to have back in NXT. And would even get the tights made for him by the people who made the tights for AJ Styles. And during this match, to try to get back in his dominating ways outside of trying to throw AJ Styles from pillar to post on the outside of the ring, would even be able to hit him with a Death Valley driver for a near fall. And afterwards was asking him, "You try to sandbag me, AJ?" Hilarious. But something that wasn't a laughing matter would be the injury that Kross would sustain, in quotations, during the match, that AJ Styles would fall for and would get hit with a forearm to the face for it. For AJ Styles to go ballistic and deliver a phenomenal blitz, followed by that sliding D, or a sliding phenomenal forearm of sorts, to really give him one, as Kross would hold his hands behind his back and get hit in the face with a phenomenal forearm for the phenomenal one to win this match via pinfall. But after the match was over, the man who calls himself humble, in quotations, will come out, Logan Paul, and would say that he's here to congratulate him for winning in a generic town full of losers, and proves that this match that we're gonna have at WrestleMania is gonna make money. And decided to show footage of himself. Of course you would. But AJ Styles would say, "That's a cute video, dumbass, so let's get in the ring and start things early before WrestleMania." Only for Karrion Kross to get involved, get hit with a phenomenal DDT of sorts, only for none other than Logan Paul to take advantage with a knockout shot and another pulverizer in the center of the ring for him to celebrate himself. But for Kross to say something backstage that proves how real is this match for him. Because he would say that this would be the first match I would have on Raw for 9 months. And not to mention the fact that he's not included on the WrestleMania card this year in a place where he's cut his teeth and made his living. And would go on further to say, but despite all that, I'm still happy because I get to wake up naked next to Scarlett tomorrow morning. But at the same time, he's also happy about the fact that he got a tiny slither of the AJ Styles that's needed to beat Logan Paul at WrestleMania. And the reason why in the world he wants them to beat him, folks, is because he says that you're the person that made the mold for being here from different companies to make your way here, and you have to beat him to prove that us guys who's been all around the world and took many years to get here made it here for a reason. But if you lose, that just proves that maybe we should have all just been YouTubers. So yeah, he told AJ Styles that he better win to prove that the 11 years he spent busting his ass on the indies wasn't for nothing. So Cross trying to bring out the evil ways of AJ Styles, and now it all makes sense, and the picture's been painted pretty clear, and I'm hoping that he does win. You know, little bias here. But outside of that, folks, the next match to take place on Monday Night Raw would be our main event of the evening. And the last main event of the evening prior to WrestleMania, too. And it would see none other than Penta going one-on-one against Finn Balor. Now, prior to this match taking place, Braun Breaker, and I almost called him Strowman, would decide to talk about his title defense at WrestleMania, saying that it could be the biggest title defense of his career, only for Finn Balor, Carlito, and Dominic to beat the living daylights flag tag out of him backstage, and for Finn Balor to say, oh, your bark is worse than your bite, and then just continue to beat him for security to finally arrive after he got stomped out like a wildfire, and then for this match to start for Finn in a way that he didn't want it to start. And why is that, folks? Because he would get hit with a tope con hero as he would make his way to the ring, followed up by a crossbody by Penta for a near fall. Even seeing repeated nasty leg kicks, a hurtful chop to the chest that echoed throughout that arena, and even a reversal by Finn Balor into a basement dropkick for a near fall. Superplex by Finn, still a near fall. Backstabber by Penta, no dice. But as we would see Penta going for the sacrifice, but would try to go for the Penta driver afterwards, Finn Balor would counter that for a near fall as well too, for the Judgment Day to show up and for Finn to take advantage, as he would, for a near fall. But once we would see Finn Balor try to make his way up to the top rope and go for a coup de grace, we would hear those air raid sirens from Braun Breaker's entrance for Carlito to nearly run out of his skin just to get away from Braun Breaker, and to hop in Michael Cole's lap almost reminded me of something from out of Scooby-Doo. But trust me, this mystery is about to be solved in a second, because Braun Breaker would get inside the ring, knock the lights right out of Finn Balor for this match to be over via disqualification in favor of Finn. But at the same time, I don't think he cared, because he came out there for his pound of flesh and would beat the daylights out of any Judgment Day member he could get his hands on. And despite it being a 2-on-1 attack, what would happen next? Well, folks, in the funniest way known possible, Braun Breaker would unlock his inner Rajang from Monster Hunter and decide to spear the daylights out of not only Dominic, but also Carlito as well too, knocking them both to the ground. For Penta getting lined up for a spear of his own, what would happen? Penta would fight back and kick him out of the ring and pull off a crossbody to all the people involved in the match, plus a Carlito, for Penta to stand tall in the center of the ring. And proud of himself too. And immediately after that match was over, we would head outside to the parking lot, with a very worried Paul Heyman fidgeting around with his phone waiting for Roman Reigns for CM Punk to show up and tell him, "Hey, Paul, look in my eyes. What do you see?" And for Paul Heyman very nervously to answer, "A cult of personality? No, you see a friend here with you right now, concerned for your well-being since you seem extremely stressed out as of late." But his stress would not go away with CM Punk by his side, because Roman Reigns, preemptively late, or late as usual, would then show up right on time to see him being hugged by none other than CM Punk. Only for CM Punk to just watch onward as Paul Heyman will go follow Roman Reigns out to the ring like a puppy dog, quoted by Michael Cole, and then for him to try to talk to Roman, or more or less think like nothing actually happened, by trying to give him a microphone for him to go for another microphone, tell the fans to acknowledge him, and would say that, yeah, you proved that you acknowledge and love your tribal chief, unlike certain people who decided that they don't and would decide to betray me. And that would lead to a "you effed up" chant from the fans for Roman Reigns to say, "Oh, Sacramento, I don't think he can hear you. A little bit louder." Yeah, and would say to Paul Heyman that, yeah, "I don't believe that you decided to work with him. You betrayed me. So, yeah, explain why." Only for Paul Heyman to say that it wasn't a betrayal, it was a favor that he decided to pay back, but Roman Reigns said, "Well, why in the world am I picking up the tab for a favor that you decided to conduct?" Only for Seth Rollins to come out dressed up in some form of fancy Shield attire, hint, 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 only for him to say, "Oh, you're starting to put the pieces together, but it's too little too late, because now I have to end you at WrestleMania, because this company will not be determined by you in this match," because Seth Rollins would say that this match is going to define the future of this industry, and it couldn't be him or CM Punk. Roman Reigns, a guy who shows up whenever it's convenient, or when people decide to leave and come back and leech off the success of others, which will both kill this business. And then would say that he, who decided to sacrifice himself physically and mentally to do what is best for business, and that's the only person who can be the one who leads the march into the future for this company, and that's me. Granted, he said there can only be one line, and I expected some form of Highlander sword to come out, but according to Colin Maestro, no Highlander sword. Maybe at WrestleMania, I don't know. But either way you look at it, folks, Seth Rollins would say that favors are not something you do because you do them. They're done by a choice, and he doesn't expect anything from Paul Heyman, but Paul Heyman made a choice by choosing CM Punk over you. For Roman Reigns to say, he's right, and you made your choice, now I gotta make mine. And just when you thought he was going to go after Paul Heyman, he would decide to give a right hook right to the jaw of Seth Rollins and take him right outside of the ring. For Paul Heyman to get pushed to the ground by Roman Reigns, for CM Punk to make his way out, battle it out with Roman Reigns sending him outside the ring, for CM Punk to check on Paul Heyman, for Roman Reigns to come from out of nowhere with a spear. And after he would get hit with a spear, Roman Reigns, almost similar to the same thing that happened many a moons ago after a certain Payback pay-per-view, would get hit in the back with a steel chair by Seth Rollins, and would watch on in agony as CM Punk would get stomped out like a wildfire, followed by Roman Reigns, for Seth Rollins to stand tall with steel chair in hand, leading into possibly one of the biggest WrestleManias of this generation. And that's something that Colin Maestro would say, because, yeah, I saw the match card for WrestleMania this year, pretty good. But at the same time, I got a feeling it could always be better. And don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, this Friday, a part of Music Village, we will be reviewing the entire entire match card, night 1 and 2 for this year's WrestleMania, which would be our, 24th WrestleMania we would be able to watch, and our 23rd WrestleMania we'd be able to report upon a part of this wonderful show, which I cannot wait till it gets here because I got a feeling it's going to be big. But what's going to happen that next following week on the Raw after WrestleMania? Who's going to go home with championship gold? Who's going to lead the industry into the future? What sort of surprises we can find? And what of Karrion Kross? Will he at least be able to fight Randy Orton on the grand stage of WrestleMania in a match that Nick Aldis will make? And finally, I remembered his name as being a GM because I always thought he was Magnus. Well, we'll find out the answers to that and more next week for a very special and probably loud and proud edition of Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, which should be good. And I guess with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to go grab a glass of water, and when we return, we'll be back with more of that street-like delight as the Tuesday Night Special rolls on right after this. So don't go watching infomercials just yet, folks, and stay tuned. All right, all you Insomniatic TV channel surfers out there tonight, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And now it's time for us to go into yet another Comedy Central tribute edition of the As Seen on TV. And the show we've got up for you for this week is none other than Chocolate News. Now, I would have had a better lead-in with that, but how many times I laughed thinking of this show back in the day, I just had to give it a simple intro before I started to get into the giggles, according to Carl and the Maestro. And the meat and potatoes for this said show would feature well over several different comedic groups getting together doing a parody news show based off of urban pop culture topics. And that's the best meat and potatoes I could give for this said show. And what did I love about this show? While I'm sitting here smiling and preventing myself from laughing due to the funny episodes I remembered from it, well, one thing, or should I say, 4 things that I loved about this show. First off, the fact that this show originally was not going to make its way to TV, but the 2 people who would intervene to make sure that it would happen would be Martin Sheen and William Shatner, who went to bat to make sure this show got a pilot. And alongside with that, the fact that the man, the myth, the legend himself, Rusty Cundiff, would be behind the sketches for this said show, as well as being a person behind sketches for the Chappelle Show, and a part of the horror anthology series of Tales from the Hood, as well as being a part of Fear of a Black Hat. Now, the reason I really love this is the fact that it was led by David Alan Grier, who was a part of In Living Color. And yes, I know we're jumping the gun, calling the Maestro the people who are a part of this show, but this part is the one of the greatest importance to mention. The fact that, well, Rusty Cundiff was actually the man who directed the film of, as we mentioned before, of Tales from the Hood. David Alan Grier was featured in that film, and the fact that Rusty Cundiff would help him alongside with this show, I find it a little bit ironic and a little full circle experience for him and David Alan Grier, which I thought was awesome. Now, with that full circle being completed according to Carl and the Maestro, another reason why I love this show would be the people involved in it, including David Alan Grier, who was behind 12 episodes of being the host of Chocolate News. But outside of that, also playing Byrne, a part of 12 episodes of Joe Pickett. Pops Dixon, a part of 8 episodes of Dad Stop Embarrassing Me. The Cowardly Lining, a part of The Wiz Live, and of course being a part of many, and I do mean many, episodes of In Living Color, as well as being a part of Tales from the Hood as the father, a part of the 3rd sketch that would be featured, a part of the 95 classic horror film of Tales from the Hood. But outside of him, you would also see Chris Tobin, who would not only play Alan Vada, a part of 9 episodes of this said show, but would also play Dr. Daniel Bloom, a part of 8 episodes of Time Belt, Hank Thunderman, a part of the Thundermans for 98 episodes, Lynn Stallmaster, a part of 1 episode of Computer Man, and was even featured as DJ, a part of Rescue Dawn in 2006. Next up on the plate, you would have none other than Alyssa Saunders, who would be none other than Tangi Ambrose, a part of 8 episodes of this said show of Chocolate News, but would also play Vonda Simmons, a part of the 98 Jerry Springer film of Ringmaster, as well as playing none other than Dolan, a part of 19 episodes of A House Divided, as well as playing Delia, a part of 17 episodes of In Plain Sight, and of course the very hilarious yet serious film of A Thin Line Between Love and Hate, starring Martin Lawrence, and she would play Nikki in that movie in 96. Yeah, and we'll eventually get to that movie in the near future, calling my show. Don't you worry about it. Then next up, you have the horror legend himself, none other than Jordan Peele, who would not only during this show play, and according to Call into My Show looking over in the corner, laughing, saying he would play Kelvin Melvin for 7 episodes of this said show, but would also be behind not only Nope, Get Out, Us, Wendell and Wild, and as well as being a part of the Key and Peele show, and also even a part of Mad TV, which in my opinion was definitely a better show than Saturday Night Live, and I know I'm gonna catch a lot of slack for that one, so we'll just move on before people get the pitchforks out. Because next up, you would have E.E. Bell, who would not only play Merle Puckett for 4 episodes, a part of this show, but would also play none other than Cecil the Barker, Cecil the Barker. I thought that said Baker. It really is Barker? It's Barker. During the movie of Water for Elephants back in 2011, would play Wilbur, a part of Babylon in 2022. A reporter in 97 for Air Force One, a bartender in Hail Caesar in 2016, but would also be one of the people featured, a part of the No Man Group, a part of Married with Children. See, I knew he looked familiar with that shirt. Then next up on the plate, you would have none other than Alfonso McCulley, who would play Ronnie Tucker for 7 episodes, a part of this show, but would also play none other than Orstein Artis, a part of Glory Road, Pookie, a part of Walk of Shame, a writer for Beforehand, and even featured as Bernard Winfrey, a part of Comic Escape. Next up on the plate, you would also have another comedic legend in my mind, none other than Gary Anthony Williams, who would not only be a part of this show for well over 2 episodes, yikes, but would also be a part of not only Workaholics, but even a part of I Don't Feel at Home in This House, but would be a detective for that, as well as playing a mutant leader in an Anchor Bill, a part of Batman The Dark Knight Returns, as well as playing Bebop, a part of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Tarek, a part of Harold and Kumar Goes to White Castle. And according to Carl and the Maestro, we can mention one more person a part of this illustrious list of people a part of this show. Wait, why only one more person? There was a lot more people a part of this show who did some pretty cool things. Oh, Colin and Michael said we can't be here all night. Okay, I understand. Well, the last person I would love to mention a part of this show would have to be the late, great Joseph Bellingri. And hopefully we said that name right, because outside of being a part of Chocolate News, we would also be seeing him as a stuntman, a part of the movie Exit Wounds in 2001. Also as an Apache, a part of a movie we will review in the near future of John Carter. Even playing a stuntman, a part of Half Past Dead. An Old Cherokee, a part of Jonah Hex. And even featured as various people, a part of the TV series of Drunk History. Now, my favorite episodes a part of this show is several, but one of them would have to be the episode where the guy decided to order a whole bunch of food, an all-you-can-eat buffet as his last meal, a part of his last meal before he gets executed, finding a way to cheat the death penalty. And also the other episode that I think featured someone like CeeLo Brown singing to the kids about no child being left behind, which was absolutely funny. And no, we're not going to repeat those lines on the air, called in the maestro. I don't care how late it is. Because, yeah, we'll get in trouble for that. But let's just say I highly recommend you go watch that one episode because it's absolutely hilarious within its own right. And with that being said, folks, as I think of the episode right now, this show, unfortunately, this show would originally kick off on Comedy Central as of October 15th of 2008, but unfortunately would only last but a mere 2 months until December 17th of 2008. And with this show having well over 10 episodes and only 1 season to its name, and seeing the fact that we don't know how to review shows along the lines of TV Guide or any of those other famous TV reviewers you know of out there, we say this. If you guys want to go ahead and watch a news show led by one of the legends of a living color, bringing a color perspective to a news broadcast with plenty of comedy added in just before the Daily Show hits, then I recommend you go out there, pick up your TV channel remotes, and watch that show. And trust me, folks, definitely a funny one, especially with David Alan Grier leading the helm. Just saying. And I guess with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with more of the Tuesday Night Special right after this. So don't go watching reruns of Seinfeld just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Back with the Insomniatic Show that mentions a show that's been on for 2 months but left an impact on us that lasted over a decade, only known as the Tuesday Night Special. And yeah, Carl and the Maestro, I was old enough to watch this show when it first came out, but boy oh boy, that one episode with the No Kids Left Behind, yeah, let's just say they aired that uncensored, and boy oh boy, what a treat that was. Absolutely hilarious, and I do seriously recommend you guys watch it at home because Key and Peele was a part of that. What a combo! And speaking of great combinations, folks, I think it's time for us to check out some video game hits, clips, while scratching that indie itch you've got from the world of Indiecade for another edition of the Indiecade Triple S Deluxe. That can count as a tax deductible according to Carl and the Maestro. But we kick things off with the art wall. And the art wall picture that we have up for this week comes from none other than the developers of Appreciation Games with their said game of Pinball Spire. And the screenshot that they provided for this week shows a pinball in some form of weird gear-like system where it will tell you spinning this gear with the ball will cycle the objects through the conveyor system. Oh, nice. All while a whole bunch of candles lurk in the background of a steel wall with a couple of very interesting arrow points for where the ball could possibly go next, and apparently an eyeball with wings. And this automatically reminds me of a combination of not only Castlevania, but with a little hint of the Windows 98 pinball game that would be featured for it, that didn't have a pinball level as elaborate as this. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this set game that not only you get a chance to make your own pinball level for your friends to play on, but a chance for you to play alongside with your friends in this set pinball game as well too. Because I look to beat my uncle in the high score. I hope I can pull it off. But besides trying to pull off high scores that'll impress my uncle, I think it's time for us to make our way on over towards the sound wall. And the sound we have up for this week comes from none other than Javier Jimenez with his said sound of Land of the Mist from the video game of, apparently according to Call of the Maestro, Jera, from the developers Tannhauser, DigiPen, and Europe Bilbao. And when I close my eyes while listening into this sound, it automatically reminds me of the one show I had where I would have people race in the morning dew on a tricycle bike called Bike Trike Mist. And if you're wondering at home, the show only lasted one season because we shot it during the winter, and when you race in morning winter cold weather, yeah, there was a little bit of ice that led to a 3 tricycle pileup, and yeah, let's just say a lot of people got hurt. And mostly my sides from laughing because the people who were in that morning circuit that week were all dressed as clowns. Yeah, it was funny until we got hit with that lawsuit. That wasn't funny at all. And with that said, folks, we now make our way on over to this Screenshot Saturday Showcase. And the Screenshot Saturday Showcase picture we have up for this week comes from none other than Serious Bros with their said screenshot for the video game of Imagine Earth. And the screenshot that they provided for this week not only shows a futuristic yet past civilization that is in the center of the map with options to add different forms of shrubbery to it, with not only what appears to be some form of airport in the far distance next to the trees, and even an active volcano next to a mining facility. And that spells a recipe for disaster. And this automatically reminds me of a combination of not only SimCity with a little hint of, you know what? I think a little hint of Civilization in there as well too. And here's hoping in the near future for this set game that there's no cavemen-like creatures that'll try to interrupt any of your building processes that will take place during this set game. Cause I got a feeling if they're around there, they're gonna try to beat that, airport over in the corner with a club and most likely activate that active volcano a little bit more to eruption. That'll cut that population of 200,000 down by at least 75%. Because that's how bad I think that volcano is going to erupt. Trust me, it's a big one. And with that said, folks, we now make our way on over towards the Indie Itch games to scratch that indie itch you've got tonight. And the first game we have up comes from none other than Indoor Otaku. Nice name, by the way, with their set game of Sushi Nights. Next game after that comes from the creator Whiten Horse with their set game of Thy Kingdom. Anyway, next game we have up comes from none other than Coconut Gorilla Tag with their set game of Project Night V2. Then from the creator Luke the Noob with their set game of Sprinky Pyramixed Redesigned. Adrian Haran with their set game of Welcome to Meadowmire. finally, last but not least, Moeller with their set game of Capita Clone Atari 2600 Space Invaders. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that are still out there to scratch that indie itch you got at home from the itch page, then you can head on over to the itch.io page of one man only known as itch.io under the games section to check them all out for yourselves. But trust me, you may be there for a while, because I got a million of them. Really do. And if you also want to go ahead and check out any other cool games a part of the Art Wall, Sound Wall, Screenshot Saturday Showcase, or even have your games featured over there as well too, then you can go ahead and head on over to the IndyCade.tumblr page of one man only known as IndyCade.tumblr.com, or head on over to their said Twitch page known as IndyCade, or even their Facebook, Discord, even their said Instagram, Flickr, YouTube, SoundCloud, Steam Machine, or website that are all named the same, but it's just as critically acclaimed, only known as, you guessed it folks, IndyCade. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back into that music and continue to listen into these diamonds in the rough as we try to turn your Tuesday night into a Friday night. Only here, right here, on the Tuesday Night Special. So don't fall asleep just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Alright, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And as a little bit of a heads up and something we forgot to mention during the Triple S Deluxe because we were laughing so much, or as Carl and the Maestro would say, had a late night case of the giggles, the submissions for the said Horizon Showcase for this year has been extended to May 5th of 2025. And the late submissions this year will be as of June 2nd of 2025. So don't burn daylight and make sure you get your games a part of the IndyCade Festival of Games to be mentioned a part of this show. Because we would love to mention them. So get them out there. And with that little bit of a surprise announcement, and speaking of oversized surprises, flapping his way over here with those giant oversized wings and almost knocking over the equipment, none other than Dan the Weatherman Stu here to deliver the 5-day weather forecast for this week. Dan the Weatherman Stu, the microphone is all yours. You look absolutely ridiculous, and those feathers almost hit me in the eye. You know what? The microphone is all yours. Jeez. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world, it's your boy from Chicago, Illinois, Dan the Weatherman Stu here to begin a 5-day weather forecast for this week. And DJ Smokey, this outfit looks magnificent. Just like I told you. No, you told me it was going to be a big outfit, and you weren't lying. The thing is huge, 1. 2, it's covered in feathers, and I hope those are not real feathers from a condor, because that got in my eye, and my eyes are starting to water. Carl and the Maestro, give me some clear eye drops. Don't worry, DJ Smokey, these feathers aren't real. I made sure I got them off of that bird over there. That bird over there, what bird is he talking about? Goose feathers. You hit me in the eye with goose feathers. You know what, Dan the Weatherman Stu? Already late. I'm already having a rough night. Have feathers in my eyes. Show's later than usual. I'm just going to go walk over in the corner, do some breathing exercises while you go do the weather. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go do that before I get upset. Just go do the weather. You know, I'm just going to say it real calm like, because it's late at night. You just go do the weather. Have fun. as he hit me in the eyes for freaking feathers, man. All right. So for tonight, that's right, Tuesday night, it's gonna be a low of 39, rainy skies at 56%, with winds going west at 11 miles per hour. And on Wednesday, a cloudy day for you, cause it's gonna be a high of 51, low of 36. Cloudy skies all around with winds going west, northwest at 17 miles per hour. And on Thursday, a hell of a lot better than the beginning of this week, cause it's gonna be a high of 62, low of 37. Sunny skies all around with winds going northwest at 12 miles per hour. And on Friday, start of the Easter weekend, baby, cause it's gonna be a high of 71, low of 55. Partly cloudy skies with winds going south at 12 miles per hour. And on Saturday, a warmer day than Friday, cause it's gonna be a high of 83, low of 57. Cloudy skies all around with winds going west, southwest at 13 miles per hour. And on Sunday, not a sunny day at all, cause it's gonna be a high of 63, low of 42. Cloudy skies all around with winds going north, northwest at 10 miles per hour. And now you know, cause I've gotta go, because I am dead, what a man Stu, and I am through for the What a Broadcast for this week. And now back to the man who's got some clear-eyed drops in his hand, DJ Smokey for the Tuesday Night Special. Yeah. All right, Dan, what a man Stu. I hope this is the end of this whole bird outfit thing you got going on, because I had to clean my eyes out with these clear eye drops, and it's been years since I had to do that until those feathers hit my eyes. I hope you don't have anything planned crazy for next week. Don't worry, DJ Smokey, I don't have anything crazy planned for that. Wait a minute, what's next week? Next week would mark the 11-year anniversary of the Tuesday Night Special. On second thought, DJ Smokey, I gotta get something prepared very cool like. See you next week. That one mess you out. No, you don't. I know what you're gonna get. Don't you dare get that outfit. And he's gone. And he's gone. This time I blame myself because I opened my mouth and told him what next week was. But, you know, I got a feeling it's not going to be that bad, is it? Is it? And Carl and the Mike Show has their hand in their face in their hand right now, and I don't like the look of that. I really don't. Oh, well. Well, as I try to figure out what in the world Dan the What a Man Stu is going to bring to the plate for next week in the craziest ways known possible, I think it's time for us to head back into those musical tunes. And when we return, we'll be back with another edition of the Indy Report right after this. So don't go watching infomercials just yet, folks, and stay tuned. All right, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And yeah, the outfit I'm worried that he would bring into this very studio is that Las Vegas looking peacock outfit that he wore, I think for one of the Indy Awards that we had. I think it was the third one he wore that for the night before the Indy Awards took place. If he's bringing that outfit out, I am very, very sorry to everybody at home who can't see it, because that thing is ridiculous, one. And two, it's gonna be bright, so I better bring my sunglasses. But besides bringing my sunglasses for bright outfits at night, I think it's time for us to go into one of my favorite parts of the show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the Indy Report, which is me giving you guys 2 news stories followed up by local content information from local artists performing it locally live near you. And in our first news story, and more or less video game news from the world of Guild Wars. It's been a while I mentioned this, and the reason why I am mentioning it now, folks, because for you fans out there, me included, who happens to miss the event every single year, this is your notification that it's coming. And what's that, folks? Well, it would be the very special April Fool Hardy's event known as the Super Adventure Festival, that I originally thought was known as the Super Adventure Box, but yep, it's the Adventure Festival that took place at least a couple of weeks after the actual April Fool's Day event. And this time, it would feature several different cool rewards, including a pixelated staff, pixelated axe, and a couple of other weapons and things that will let you find out on your own, according to Carl and the Maestro. Not to spoil the surprise, according to them. But either way you look at it, I gotta get those weapons. And this year, I'm definitely gonna participate, and thank goodness this year I've got plenty of time to do so. And if you guys want to go ahead and jump into the Super Adventure Box and hopefully catch it like I will for this year, then you can go ahead and check it out on the YouTube page of one man only known as Guild Wars 2 to check it out for yourselves. And according to Carl and the Maestro, this event will take place until May 6th of 2025. So just 1 day shy after Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, I got plenty of time for that. I say that every single year, and I find out I don't have the time for that. And in other news, and speaking of news of things that you finally have time for you Twitch fans out there who got the announcement of the said inventory space for highlights being reduced down to 100 hours and didn't have the time to get it done, well, I have some news for you, because this past week, the deadline has officially been extended all the way down to May 19th of 2025. And I, for one, am breathing a small sigh of relief, but at the same time, after a couple of streams that I had that went well over 10 hours and other streams that definitely will be mentioned as video game stories in the near future, I'm really not looking forward to the fact that I have to cipher through all of these things just to find them. But at the same time, at least it'll bring back some cool memories that I'll be able to share with you fans at home, most likely on our YouTube page. That's if I'm allowed to fit it into the said YouTube page, as long as it doesn't have copyrighted music for it. And Carl and the Maestros give me the thumbs up saying we should be fine. Hopefully. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the extension that you were given for your said Twitch highlight reels, then you can go ahead and head on over to the Twitch streaming page only known as, well, Twitch, to check it out for yourselves. And that's going to be one busy weekend for me, I tell ya. And speaking of busy things to do during the week, folks, we now head into the concert information, where we kick things off with Wednesday, April 16th. And the first band we have up is Scott Cook, nice band name, who's going to be performing at the Girthy Green in Tulsa, Oklahoma. At 11:30 a.m., Jenny Kern with the Drive-In is both going to be performing at the Mercury Lounge in New York, New York. At 6 p.m., Eric Schaefer and the Other Troublemakers is all going to be performing at the Monterey Court Studios, Galleries, and Cafe in Tucson, Arizona. At 6:30 p.m., the Lowdown Drifters with Mallory Everett is all going to be performing at the Sticky's Rock and Roll Chicken Shack in Little Rock, Arkansas. At 6:30 p.m., Broken Side with Baymac is both going to be performing at the Brick by Brick in San Diego, California. At 7 p.m., Jeff Ruby is going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas. At 7 p.m., Desert Bloom is going to be performing at the Laguna Bob in South Padre Island, Texas. At 7 p.m., Jen Rund with Generator, Nice Band Names, is both going to be performing at the Ashencast Music and Dance in Berkeley, California. At 8 p.m., and to finally wrap things up for Wednesday night, you can see Rock Island, who's going to be performing at the Laguna Bob in South Padre Island, Texas, at 10 p.m. And on Thursday, April 17th, you can see these following bands performing in a local area near you live. The C4 Band is going to be performing at the Bobby's Idle Hour Tavern in Nashville, Tennessee. At 12:30 p.m., Moon McBill, or according to Colin Maestro, Moon New Bill, is going to be performing at the Groove NYC in New York, New York. At 6 p.m., Greg Fundies is going to be performing at the Ironworks in Buffalo, New York. At 7 p.m., Jay Vaughn is going to be performing at the Grape Escape in Galena, Illinois. At 7 p.m., you can also see Gary with Mark of Noble, Kenneth Forsyth, and Jan, who's all going to be performing at the Millennium Maxwell House Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee. At 7 p.m., Billy Bauer Band with Roots in Blue, Jay Glenn Music, Kyle Yankboy, and 2 other bands yet to be announced, who's all going to be performing at the Sherman Theater in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. At 7 p.m., Debbie Glenn with Billy Hillman and Scott Nutter is all going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas. At 7 p.m., Stephanie Morton with Gary is both going to be performing at the Millennium Maxwell House Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee. At 7 p.m., another performance at the same time as the other performance? According to Colin and my show, he might be cutting in the other room after he's done with the other performance. Right? Anyway, folks, next band we've got up is Thrower with Cold, September Morning, and University Drive, who's all going to be performing at the Baltimore Soundstage in Baltimore, Maryland. At 7 p.m., the C4 Band is going to be performing at the Millennium Maxwell House Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee. At 8 p.m., and to finally wrap things up for Thursday night, you can see the Rob Garcia Band, or the Rob Gracia Band, according to Colin the Maestro, who's going to be performing at the Laguna Bob in South Padre Island, Texas, at 9 p.m. And on Tuesday for next week, which is Earth Day, aka April 22nd, you can see these following bands performing in a local area live near you. Stone and Snow is going to be performing at the Woodlands Tavern in Columbus, Ohio, at 6 p.m. Sunchild with Confined to a Singular Form and Derek Porter. It's all going to be performing at the NCOM Cyber Hall in Norman, Oklahoma at 6 p.m. Angel Maker with Humanity's Last Breath, Psycho Frame, and The Gloom in the Corner. It's all going to be performing at the Brick by Brick in San Diego, California at 6 p.m. Shelly King with Carolyn Wonderland. It's both going to be performing at the Continental Club in Austin, Texas at 6:30 p.m. Nate Nielsen Acoustic. It's going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas at 7 p.m. Joseph Huber is going to be performing at the Sticky's Rock and Roll Chicken Shack in Little Rock, Arkansas at 7 p.m. Marty C. Moore is going to be performing at the Froggies in Virginia Beach, Virginia at 7 p.m. You can also see the Rob Gracia Band, who's going to be performing at the Laguna Bob in South Padre Island, Texas at 8 p.m. Victoria Shaw is going to be performing at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee at 9 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Tuesday for next week and all the bands we're going to mention for this week, you can see Austin Mays with Helly Hanna, who's all going to be performing at the Saxton Pub in Austin, Texas at 10 p.m. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast, and trust me folks, there were a lot of them, you can head on over to ReverbNation.com to check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast. And while you're over there, check out a couple of their cool tunes. Trust me, worth the listen. And like we say at the end of all of these skits, go out there, support your local artists, and see these guys perform live. And trust me, they'll love you for it. I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music one more time. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for the Tuesday Night Special for this week, right after this. So don't fall asleep just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Well, all you Streetlight Crusaders, seeing the fact that we're fresh out of Streetlight Crusading all for this week and we've got to get out of here to get some more for next week's show, we might as well bring the Tuesday Night Special for this week to an emphatic close. But don't worry, if you miss any of that Streetlight delight that we were able to give you for this week, we got you covered, because you can catch this show again one more time, all the time, on our SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr pages, still all named the same, only known as Music Village Radio under the hashtags Tuesday Night Special 535. As a matter of fact, that's how much that outfit cost Dan the Weatherman Stu was wearing, $535, plus tax including the helmet. Ugh. But if you guys want to go ahead and catch this show with musical interludes featured in between with the musical goodness we were able to play, then you can go ahead and head on over to our said Live 365 page, only known as Music Village Radio. And if you want to find out what other crazy and zany things we still got prepared for this month of fools, like Dan the Weatherman still spending way too much money to look like a bird that may have chased the Roadrunner, then you can go ahead and check it out on our YouTube, Discord, and Twitter pages, still all named the same, only known as the Double Agent 0012. Before we head out for the night, we would like to thank, as always, you the Streetlight Crusaders out there for listening in to a very special Tax Night Insomniatic Delight edition of the Tuesday Night Special. If you guys and gals out there like what you heard, go out there and spread the word. You know what? Like Licorice Stick Mayfield, a part of Chocolate News, describing the moves he pulled off back in the day. Yeah, you know, the PR department knows where I'm going with this one, and no call in the maestro, we're not going to mention all of the names. Maybe about 8 of them. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys. And here's hoping your music gets featured during a show that can last more than 2 seasons. And why? Because we believe in you guys. That's why. And plus, we may try to find it to be featured a part of the show. And speaking of people's music that was featured a part of this show, we would like to thank our musical guest for this week, none other than Jason Klug with his said song of Pet the Dog that was featured during the intro. And of course, none other than Carl and the Maestro with their said song of the Late Night Cafe Wrap-Up. That's wrapping things up for the night for this week's edition of the Tuesday Night Special. Like always, guys, keep up the great work, and we can't wait to hear what you got coming down the tubes next. And finally, last but certainly not least, we would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for delivering all those sweet, sweet video game hits and clips we had a chance to mention during this week's show. And as always, guys, keep them coming, because you never know what show might be coming around the corner next. Hint, 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 hint. And I guess with everybody thanked, you guys out there know we go out. I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of Carl and the Maestro, and for you up-all-nighters, late-night drivers, insomniatic TV watchers, gamers, grapplers, and you streetlight crusaders heading into a tax night with hopefully more money in your pocket, saying... The A train, the B train, the C train, the D train, the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, the number 4, the number 5, the number 6, the number 7 cross town, and I think that's it. But most importantly, when there's smoke, there's fire. And we will see you guys next week for a very special late night homecoming anniversary edition of the 11 at Night Special. But until then, we'll see you next week. Go get some sleep, and good night, everybody.